Welcome back. For many members of our community, holidays are not the most wonderful time of the year. It can be a really tough time, in fact. And it's important to remember that these feelings that a lot of people are struggling with this time of year, loneliness, isolation, just to give an example, like you're not the only person dealing with it, and there are ways to deal with it. So we have invited someone on today to give a little insight. I have joining with me today Dr. Jennifer Harnett-Adams, clinical psychologist from HCA Health One. Thanks for being here today. Yeah. This is a tough season.
It is a busy season and can be really challenging for a lot of people.
I think examples that come to mind right away is certainly a loss. Somebody's dealing with grief this time of year, family dynamics changing, maybe post-divorce or grown children, new children. Those are my examples. I'm sure you have even more.
Yeah.
What are some of the things people are up against this time of year?
Yeah, well, we know that about 50 to 75% of people report experiencing loneliness around the holidays, and about 90% of people report feeling significant stress during the holidays. So definitely, so many of us are experiencing a lot of inner turmoil. But yes, new parents here in Colorado, we have a lot of people who move here for job opportunities and things like that. So this may be their first season away from their families. Families whose kids have moved on for new opportunities. Yeah, just lots of changes. Families are always changing, and so this can really highlight that.
I had a conversation with my own family this week about this idea of families are always changing, and even if everyone's getting along, you may have just people grown, starting new traditions. We have to grieve old traditions before we can sometimes start new ones. And that idea of loneliness can be really tough. I think, I think of like grandmas who are so used to their babies being in the house. Now those babies have babies. And that's really tough for the older folks who are dealing with that. And then again, the idea of loss this time of year.
Absolutely. Yeah, during this time of year, we often have sort of a picture perfect idea of how the holidays are going to go.
That's so unrealistic.
It's so unrealistic. And so it will never measure up to that. And so that gap between expectation and reality can be really painful and create feelings of loneliness. And then, and like you said, if families have gone through a loss, whether it's, a loss through somebody dying, or if it's a loss just from a move or change in relationships, it does sort of make us reflect and think about what was different in years past.
Well, we know every family has some version of this time of year. So everyone's going through a version, but I guess how do we deal with it? You're the guy who moved away and you're by yourself in Denver on this holiday for the first time, which is I've been in that position. That's a tough Band-Aid to rip off. So what do we do about isolation and loneliness this time of year?
Yeah, so really the best way to combat that loneliness is to look for connection and look for meaningful activities. So that connection, it could be through, a big family celebration or a big party with friends, but it can also be smaller, like in the moment connections. It might be, a friendly conversation with your barista or with your neighbor, just those small day-to-day moments. As we collect those little moments throughout the weeks, that adds up to a feeling of being more connected to our community.
We attach so much importance to this one day, but we have really a season. We can get away from this idea of like Christmas Day, the 25th has to be a certain way, when we can just be like friendly and more encouraging and try to go meet new people any of the days right now.
Yeah, and creating meaningful moments, so if you mentioned, a grandparent who's, wishing for the days of their, of raising their own children, and, I think about, maybe there's a new way to kind of create that tradition or keep it going, but with somebody new. So maybe there's a young family who's new to Denver, who's moved in next door. That grandparent might be missing their own children, but maybe they invite their neighbor's children over to bake cookies. And kind of keep that tradition alive and get to know a neighbor.
It is, I try to remind myself this time of year, just deep breaths. It is, we put so many expectations on this time of year. It is also just another day of the calendar, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, Dr. Adams, thanks for coming in and talking about it today. Hopefully folks can kind of take some good messages and points from this and just take care of yourself, right? Take care of yourself this holiday season. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thanks, you too.
All right.